Hi, this is Penn. Penn Jillette, Penn and Teller. Big guy does magic, smaller guy next to me. He does magic too. He doesn't talk that much. I want to talk about Joseph Jaffe is not famous. And Joseph Jaffe is not famous. Joseph Jaffe is wicked not famous. Joseph Jaffe is superlatively not famous, and for good and sufficient reason. I mean, maybe his guests are famous. Maybe his guests are famous. He gets some famous people on his guests, but Joseph Jaffe himself is not famous. That's the important part. You can have famous guests and still not be famous. And if you want an example of that, well, Joseph Jaffe would be a really good example. Teller would do a better job at a talk show, and Teller doesn't talk, which you'd think would be one of the major qualification of being on a talk show and not being famous. What's that, Teller? Oh, yeah. Teller says, Joseph Jaffe, not famous. Love you. Peace.
I just want you to know I practiced this word about 20 times to make sure that I did not mispronounce it.
I have a question. Has anyone ever said, with all due respect, and then not followed up with a zinger?
His side of the bed. If I come in and I'm on the other side, he will move it. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Which side do you like? With all due respect, you make a good point.
Cheery Oreos! Toasted Oreos!
Mute. He's muted.
I love what he's saying. He doesn't need sounds.
You're so small, squishing your head, Joseph.
You can.
Do it with me, Joe.
With all due respect, you really do look handsome, Bruce. Cheery Oreos! Toasted Oreos!
Look at you. You are insane.
How did I do that?
You're
How did I do
insane.
that? You just made the intro reel. Yes, you did. I almost got it right. I was enjoying my intro so much that I actually forgot that I was meant to be on set, on camera. This was very weird. It was very out of body. My heart was out of my body. And today we are going to be discussing matters of the heart. We are going to be talking about not matters of the heart, but moments of the heart with my very special guest, Dorice Horenstein. And I should have probably done the young Frankenstein. Is it Horenstein or Horenstein? I just do it as a South African, and we would say Horenstein. Dorice is in the house. Bob Farnham is here. He said, I'm famous. I was in the intro. Yes, you were, Bob. Not to place you and make you feel old, but yeah, we've been doing this since March 2020. And as I wrote in my book, I won't stop until I drop dead. If that's what it takes, got to keep going. Got to manifest that goal, which is to be picked up by CNBC or similar. I just want to be able to bring the Daily Show for business to the rest of the world. And if you're out there, help me on my quest. Why not? Let's do it together. Well, it is 2024 and I start my show, and I've got a master coach on the show with me, so I'm curious as to how she responds and reacts to my why. And my why is, as a teacher, facilitator, and coach, I help high aspiring entrepreneurs, owners, and their leadership teams get unstuck, return to growth, and become forever changed. It's very personal for me when we talk about this idea of stuck. Well, I started the show when people were stuck at home or stuck in general. And so if someone is stuck, clearly the objective is to get unstuck. And if you want to get unstuck, or if I've helped you get unstuck, subscribe to the show at bit.ly/subscribe to the show, where you can get me and 600 plus guests just like Dorice, but maybe not quite as special as Dorice, because I always say that my current guest is my best guest yet, and I've never been proven wrong. Well, what does it mean to be forever changed? What it means to be forever changed is the ability to use this opportunity, see the signs. The signs are all around us. Ultimately, miracles, nature, it's all around us, but are we paying attention? And if we didn't seize this opportunity during the last 3-4 years to move towards the light, to love what we do, to be true to ourselves and to stay the course, then we wasted an opportunity. But the good news is there's still time. And what about growth? Well, last year I became a coach, an implementer, helping privately held companies, 10 to 250 employees. That's the sweet spot. Become forever changed, return to growth, and ultimately get what they want from their business. That is how I ended up doing a course called PQ. The whole idea, forget about EQ and IQ. How about PQ, positivity quotient? I did a course to become a coach, to learn more about it. And that's where I met our guest, Dorice Horenstein. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. Now, every morning, Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I do a virtual coffee, an audio first, audio only coffee in what we call the Collective Cafe. We do it in Discord, and you can even subscribe to the podcast version of it at bit.ly/Collective Cafe to go. We do this in Clubhouse and Discord. And, just to share a couple of recent sessions, we're reading 2 live books at the moment, or doing 2 live reads. One of them is called The 4 Obsessions of an Extraordinary Executive. The other one is called Crucial Conversations, trying to get smarter, help people while they're getting the kids ready for school, while they're on the treadmill, walking the dog, commuting to the big bad city. Why not feed your heart, your mind, your soul, while you're also working your body as well? And another session we did recently was all about Elmo. And poor Elmo just went out and tweeted and said, "Hey, just checking in, everybody okay?" And the world said, "No, Elmo, we are not okay. We're not okay at all." And looks like don't shoot the messenger, but poor Elmo got caught in the middle. Another thing, speaking of business, Gino Wickman, the founder of EOS, he did recently his 2000th session. It's like a tongue twister. And he said the number one factor that contributes to a company's success is a strong leadership team. And in that, the 7th tenet of what makes a strong leadership team is love. Love the people that you work with. And that's why today's seated soliloquy is all about love. It's called Love to Love. And as always, it's not just because today when we record is Valentine's Day, but also because my guest is all about love as well. So it's February 14th. Happy Vision Pros Day. I read a quote from an article called "You Can't Overcome the Dork Factor," talking about Apple's Vision Pro goggles. This is basic human psychology. The evil evolutionary goal is for people to want to mate with us. For that to happen, we need to stand out, but not too much. And as Professor Scott Galloway says, we're highly discerning about what we put on our face as a must enhance, not impair our ability to assert dominance, attract mates, and make connections. There is no version of a headset or goggles that makes us seem more appealing. None. I don't question the adoption of Vision Pro. I'll never write off Apple. We will continue to put these things on our faces as they get more powerful, lighter, smaller, cheaper. What I question is the ability for us to ignore basic human psychology. We've all heard the stories of these devices being built into regular glasses or even contact lenses, but let's not check our humanity at the door. Let's not lose sight of things like privacy, like Meta's Ray-Bans with built-in live streaming and capturing capabilities. Meta's defense is a small red light, which when on means you're being recorded. Come on. How easy would it be to disable or write over it with a Sharpie? We can do better than that. We're not just in a mental health crisis at the moment. We're in a social crisis. As I wrote in my book, Join the Conversation, back in 2007, forget social media. We need to put the social back into media. We need to put the social back into marketing. We need to put the social back into commerce. Humanity is at a crossroads, on a precipice, and the decisions we make now may have long-term repercussions. They already have in terms of social media addiction. So this Valentine's Day, instead of walking across the street wearing your Vision Pro goggles to purchase an overpriced Hallmark card, reach out and touch someone appropriately with your voice, with your emotions, with your empathy. Reach out to your clients and tell them you love and appreciate them. Reach out to your employees and tell them you love and appreciate them. Reach out to your friends and family and tell them that you love and appreciate them. Try to spend a little less time on devices today and every other day. And in doing so, maybe, just maybe, a little less time separating yourself from the outside world. So to all the eye moles out there who purchased 200,000 units in just 18 minutes, take off the goggles and expose your eyes to the brilliant sunlight and the beautiful imperfections of human beings around you. That's how we win. And that's how humanity wins. And now it's time to win. Oh, by the way, I should say, this is the eye mole. This is what AI created. It's what I call the eye mole, someone who's decided to hide, bury themselves into the ground, in this case, separate themselves from the world. And so I decided to brand it eye mole. But here's someone who is not a mole. Here is someone who doesn't shy away from the world. Here is someone who truly does bring brilliant light to all. It's Dorice Horenstein. After serving as an officer in the Israeli military, followed by years of leadership in the education field, Dorice, a resilience speaker known as Oi to Joy, I see what she just did there, uses her energy and charisma as she transitioned to make the world her platform. Dorice inspires others to improve their mental fitness, sharpen their resilience, navigate challenges, discover opportunities for growth, and thus find their champion within and live a purposeful life. Dorice is a positive intelligence expert and a best-selling author of Moments of the Heart, 4 relationships everyone should have to live wholeheartedly. And now, please join me in welcoming her. But first, let's just watch this little reel. Shalom, מה שלומך?
הכל טוב, הכל מצוין. Thank you so much for having me. I love seeing the sizzle reel. I rarely actually watch it. It's always the events and I'm behind the stage. So it was kind of fun to watch it.
Well, the irony is I was watching the start myself and I forgot to actually come, to switch my camera on. There's something in there already, which is sometimes we don't take the time to actually appreciate and even enjoy ourselves. And it's weird. It's, when you're in service of others, and you can provide laughter and happiness and joy and inspire them, you can also be inspired by yourself and enjoy yourself. I know it sounds weird, but I think it's true.
And I think it's important, Joseph. I think that love that you were talking earlier, it's the first thing is to show it to ourselves. And sometimes it's the pat on the back, like, oh my gosh, I've done this. See how many things you have done since March of 2020 when you pivoted. Just that and stopping and pausing and saying, I'm looking back at the journey I've done. It's unbelievable. It's freaking unbelievable. And here I am. And you don't know what the future is, which is, I think, another beautiful thing in life, that we don't know what the future may bring. And our journey may go, sideways and, sometimes a little backwards, sometimes a little forward. But that's what makes life beautiful.
It certainly does. And, I've mentioned this several times lately, that the question of questions is not how do you achieve happiness, but how do you achieve lasting happiness? And the answer is a combination of be happy in the moment, in the journey, with the bumps and bruises and uncertainties, but have a purpose as well. So that's the one too. It's be happy in the moment and have something that you're aiming towards, striving towards achieving. And so for me, even when I have a bad show, when technology doesn't work out, or a guest stands me up, actually, I don't think a guest has ever stood me up, because I would revenge on them. But
No,
there's
you're
still the purpose.
relentless. You're amazing. You're relentless in
I
how
have
you
to be.
communicate. It's like that's what sometimes people like me need.
Really, I said to you, you might be the most, what did I call it? The most disorganized guest ever. But that's true. Let me ask you something, Dorice, because we can go in so many directions. And the thing that just popped into my mind right now, which is what is the difference, in your opinion, your definition, not the dictionary definition? What's the difference between happiness and joy?
I think joy is more internal. I think joy is something that you cultivate. It's not sometimes, and happiness, somebody or something can make you happy. Somebody bought you a new bike, a new car, a new something. You're happy. Joy is a state of existence that I think is below, deep down, and it has to come internally from you, and it does not, and it's connected a lot with gratitude, and that's something that you can always hold on to, even in times of oys. And you're one of my tribes. That we have had oy quite a bit lately, and yet, looking at Israelis and being Israeli myself, I've seen the oy, but I've also seen the strive for joy in the midst of this darkness. And so I think that's what it is. I think joy is internal, and it's you hold on to it when happiness can come and go.
There is certainly so much in this world that on any given day can bring us to our knees as humans, as as members of our tribe, or any tribe, quite frankly. And one of the things that I picked up, certainly in after March 2020, it's like Voldemort, I don't mention the name, is that our lives became what I call manic depressive. The highs were super high, the lows were super low, and often they would almost hit you at the same time. You could go from extreme happiness to extreme sadness. In many respects, and I haven't actually thought about it this way, when you look at a football game, like a game of soccer or any game of sport, you can go from extreme exuberance and euphoria to extreme despair and depression.
Mhm.
How do you cope with this, with the fact that our lives right now are not just, our lives are not boring? How do you cope with all these extreme highs and lows and regulate your emotions to actually focus yourself to move forward?
Well, isn't that the key and the centerpiece of positive intelligence? That is, I think, what to me helped me. When you talked about March 2020, I think everyone has their story about what they did, what happened to them in March of 2020. What happened to me in March of 2020 is that's when I discovered positive intelligence. I was on the way to working on my speaking regarding my book Moments of the Heart, which you pointed, and I had speaking engagement in 2019, and I was really on the go because I left my job in the July of 2018, and so I was building things, and the future looked promising. And then March 2020 happens, and everything is shutting down, and Dorice is not going to be able to go to all these places that she thought she would. Talk about a challenge, an oy, a setback. It was, what am I going to do next? And sometimes, Joseph, we have to be with our eyes open, even if there is darkness around. Even if there is darkness around, because you can still adjust to the darkness and see through. And one of the things that came to me was a friend actually mentioned, "Oh, Dorice, why don't you do positive intelligence coaching?" And like everybody else, I was like, what is positive intelligence? I need to learn more about it. And I took the 7-week course. And I decided this is absolutely complementing and fulfilling my whole moments of the heart. Because in the moments of the heart, I talk about the roadmap of positive and loving journey of life with ourselves, with other people, with the events that happen to us in our life. Positive intelligence gave me the tools of how to. And I think that's what you were asking, is like the how to. And there's many ways, but one of the things that I go back time and time again, because we all have setbacks, even after 2020, is connecting with our true essence and what we bring, and the champion that each one of us is in our own core, in our own being. And I believe it in all my fiber of my beings, but I also know it from the Hebrew language. I also know it from the mystery of the Hebrew, which I have been teaching and training and educating for 30 years before. I know the impact of that. So because Hebrew is a fascinating language. I don't want to go into all that stuff about Hebrew language, but one of the things about the champion in particularly is that the word, let me take it a step back. The word a human, right? Human in Hebrew is when I talk on the stage, I give it like a little bit of an act and a trivia. But basically, the word for human. Do you know what the word for human? Of course you do. You are Joseph. Very
Yeah, no,
famous.
carry on. I'm loving it.
So okay, so the word for human is this. Give you a clue, biblical clue. A guy.
Adam.
Yes, Joseph. He is famous and he's knowledgeable. Here you go. So Adam. So the word Adam is built of two syllables, a and dam. The a encompasses the spirit within a human being. The aleph, right? The a, the alpha. It encompasses the spirit within each one of us. That's why it doesn't have a consonant strong ending, because spirituality and having the spirit in you, it's open-ended. It's you allow how much spirit you want in you. The word dam literally means blood, and it signifies the ligaments, the muscles, the way our body looks from the outside. So what is human in totality? It's the sum of the physical and the spiritual. Well, that aleph, that letter, is, if you change the vowels, it's the word aluf, which means a champion. Now, sit with that for a second. That concept of a champion is embedded in you, in each one of us. So imagine, talking about love and, this on this beautiful, glorious day, imagine if every single person will think of themselves as a champion. What will happen in this world? Not only do you think you are the champion, but then you realize that everybody else is a champion. So it's not like, oh, look at me, I'm the best thing since sliced bread, and nobody else is going to do what I do. But I'm a champion. Joseph is a champion. Hannah is a champion. Moses is a champion. Brad is a champion. All of that. So now, how do we, as people of champions, can shift and move this boat that we live on into this ocean called life? I think that is the key. And I think that's what I promised myself that I will do once I left my education career of 30 years, is making sure that everybody knows that they have the privilege of being a champion, but they also have the obligation of being a champion, because one does not go without the other. So what is your privilege as a human being on this earth? What values do you take with you to carry you through, and how do you influence and ignite other people about these values? And are these values are principles that are never changing principles?
I love the duality, right? The privilege and the obligation. So it is an awesome responsibility, and it is just that, and it is a gift as well. So it's not a burden as much as it also is an opportunity. I want to talk a little bit more about positivity. And I'm going to ask you, this is what's called a layup, a very a softball, but is positivity, it's actually probably a little trickier, the question, now that I think about it, but is positivity a choice? Is it a free choice at the end of the day?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can choose to be positive. You can choose to be negative. Sometimes you don't think you have the choice. That's the key. Sometimes you are born, you say, oh, those things are bad that happening to me. Therefore, I choose to be, this is negative. For example, simple problem. Okay, simple problem. We had an ice storm here in Portland a couple of weeks ago. And in our home, we lost electricity and heat for 6 days. And it was very cold. We lost internet also, phone for 12 days. Okay. We couldn't do the work that we do. I've heard around me people who were negative about this. And I remember looking at myself, sitting on a sofa with a blanket covering myself so I could remain warm. And I said, okay, I have a choice. What do I want to, the words I want to say, the feelings I want to feel, and how do I want to look at it when it's the past? When I look back, how do I want to regard what just happened? And how did I show up? And so it is absolutely a choice. Sometimes it's hard because we have the saboteurs that are coming up against us, and we don't internalize it as saboteurs. We just think this is the reality, and everybody is like that. It's a choice. Life is full of choices. And at the bottom line, every day, you, me, the world, we make choices of how we want to handle each and every day.
So I want to talk to you about that choice, which is let's see whether I retained anything from the program. But ultimately, what is so interesting is there's neuroplasticity involved in being able to make the choice to choose positivity over negativity, and the two neural pathways are characterized and branded by the saboteur and the sage.
That's
and
right.
The saboteur is run by the judge, and the judge and his 9 accomplices. Now, we were asked or told to give a name to our judge. My judge, Dorice, I called him the narcissist, because he judges. He has a superiority complex. He always believes that he is better, smarter than everyone else. And he has an acute lack of feeling, emotion, and empathy. So the judge for me was the narcissist, very, very visual, and very, very clear, a disassociation, I should say.
Yeah, mine got the name Mr. Know-It-All. I should have said Mrs. Know-It-All, because that was mine. And sometimes, but let's take it one step back. All of our saboteurs were formed in either our childhood or the impact of our childhood and into our early adults. So, when you look at a 2-year-old, like my granddaughter is 2.5, you can see that there's no saboteurs in her. There's nothing. And through life, we have things that are happening to us that make us lean into a saboteur or another. The judge is the universal saboteur. It's like every single person has it, regardless of their gender, where they live, the language they speak. Above 5 years old, you develop that. Sometimes that judge manifests itself in judging our own selves. We become really hard on ourselves. Another way that the judge works is judging other people. Always thinking, if that person was not in that position, I would be so much better off. If that person was not my boss, I would do so much better. Right? And then the third one is the judge of circumstances. If it wasn't for COVID-19, I would be speaking so many places.
Yeah, why does this always happen to me?
Yeah, because of that, because the circumstances. And so it manifests itself in different ways. And a lot of the time, we don't even see that it's the judge. We don't know that it's the judge. But when we connect with our energy and understand, how long do you want to keep your hand, as we say, on the hot stove? How long do you want to feel negative feelings? So when people ask me, what is negative feelings? I said, does it make you feel good? does it make you? Because said, oh, I think these feelings are fine. I said, you know what? If your hand is not on the hot stove and you don't feel that heat, keep on doing whatever you're doing, because you will not want to change. People want to change when they feel the damage. When they feel the damage, when they have somehow lack of friends, or they're not doing well in their relationships, or they physically are not feeling well, they're stressed, they feel overwhelmed, when they're not successful in whatever it is they want to feel successful. These are the times where you say, okay, what do I need to shift? Do I need to move so that I will have a better result? It's always, to me, and what I see with my clients, with the companies that I have coached, how bad is it for you? And if that's bad, then you want to have a change. Sometimes people have much higher self-awareness and they are more into self-development. That's another group of people that
Well,
they
they
always
say-
want to learn and be better.
There's a lot of stuff, obviously, that we both share, the thoughts of this idea of, these are not the things that happen to you. These are the things that happen for you. But I want to talk about the ability to change. The other one, of course, a very popular one, which is change happens when the pain of not changing is greater than the pain of changing. There's pain either way. And accepting that pain sometimes can be quite helpful, cathartic even. But I just want to share a little bit. I've never shared this really with anyone, not certainly through the show. But you remember we had to go back and we did all these meditations, all these self-reflections, and we had to go back and talk about and picture ourselves when we were the happiest in the world, a moment when we were the happiest. And there was an image, a photograph that I remembered, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And when I was in South Africa now, I finally found it. So I want to share. This was the image.
Oh
So
my
that-
gosh.
So
Okay. So when you look at this, how can you just not love that smile, love that curiosity? Look at the joy. You're holding, what are you holding with in your hand?
I was blowing bubbles.
Oh, it was bubble. Oh, okay.
I was in a woods or forest and I remember even the sweater, the color of the sweater. And it was a time, it was just a time. It was a simpler, more innocent time, not just because I was a kid, but I just remember my feeling, even going back to that, was pure, unadulterated joy.
Yes. That is so. How often can you connect back to these feelings? So in positive intelligence, we know we have this activity where we look at our younger self. And I love that you framed that picture, and I love that it's right there in your office, because often I tell my clients, keep that picture of the one of you, of this innocent you that you have just abundant love to envision in your office, in your kitchen, on the wall, on the way to your bedroom, that you can see every time, and then have a conversation, like a minute conversation with that person of you, and know that this is you. So many times in life, we're like an onion. We had this beautiful picture, and then we have all these layers around us, and that's about peeling all the layers and really coming back to the essence of you. And you were talking about the ability to change. I think the most change, and maybe that's known, but I discover it about myself over and over and over again. Oh my God, I love that. Look at these moments of the heart. I love that.
I can do more for you. I can
I'm like, I need to know how you, oh my God. Okay, that's my book. I love my book. And I love the cover, okay? A lot of people think, because I'm seeing this right now, a lot of decision making goes into how does your book look? What is the cover of your book? And on purpose, if you look at it on purpose, it is not straight. Moment of the heart is not in one line, because life is not in one line. It's not linear. The fact that it's on the background of wood is also important, because wood expands. Our life expands things, and it makes room for other things. The fact that the heart is pieces of that you can put in together, like 4 pieces. Without a piece, without what we call a chamber, life would not be the same, right? You can't actually live life. So each relationship that I talk about in the book is part of this heart. And so there's a lot of thoughts coming to a cover, and I had to say that. But back to what we were talking, the ability.
Just hang on a second, because I told you we don't know where the conversation's going, but you know, this is my new book, and it's called Forever Changed: How a Global Pandemic Changed My Direction, My Purpose, and My Life. The cover was designed by an Iranian-born NFT designer by the name of Ali Sabet. What is also interesting is the cover is actually a video. So it's a book cover, but it's not a static image. And in many respects, that's me, by the way.
Wow.
And when you look at the cover builds and unbuilds and gets confused and is chaotic and, you know, and is forever changing as well. So I love what you said about this idea of, if you can love the cover. So here's the thing, Dorice, if you can have this much joy and passion and love the cover of a book, imagine how much you love everything else about the book, inside the book. And you don't have to be the author of the book. You can be a reader of the book that falls in love with the cover.
That's right. A lot of the time, people may not know how much thought, you are an author, you know how much thought goes into a cover of a book. I mean, I cannot tell you the discussions that we've had, me and the publishing team and everybody else, about just the cover. Forget the words inside. Yeah, it's crazy.
Hey, Dorice, I'm thinking maybe we should come up with a new saying, which is, you should judge a book by its cover. How about that?
I love it. You know what? This could be, I'm writing it down because this could be the next LinkedIn post. You should.
You should,
especially. Yeah.
Especially if joy and love and passion and thought has gone into it. So,
yes.
So Dorice, I want to get back to this beautiful continuum of oi to joy. And let's go back to the fact that there are people that are hurting. There are people that went through, you know, tremendous upheaval, being laid off, losing their jobs, going through, you know, marriage difficulties. I mean, you and I were both, you know, in our 50s. I don't know if hopefully I muffled that as well. And we are in a way reinventing our lives at this beautiful age as well. But people are stuck, and they don't feel that they can choose positivity, and they don't feel like they have the ability by themselves to change or to get unstuck. How do they do that? I mean, besides obviously, you know, buying your book and finding a coach, I'm saying, like, ultimately, philosophically, how do they do that when people feel so helpless in the world?
First of all, I do want to acknowledge that there is stuckness. I think it's important that we give a space for saying, yeah, you know, life can be tough. Life is tough. Life sometimes takes us on routes that we didn't want to. And I want to say something that I didn't say in the beginning, and that was not at the beginning, but right before, where we talked. You asked me about the ability to change, and I said, and I this is what I'm going to say, that from narrowness comes more of a widening of the road. We grow the most from the time that we feel the most constrained. We can think about it. I can think about it from times that I was not happy at my 30-year career in the education field. And that period of unhappiness, that journey, even though there were happy moments there and of course joy, but in general, I felt constrained. I remember I would feel my heart, physicality. I would feel my heart squeezes when I entered a particular building. To do some of the work that I've done. And I knew I was very, you know, my ability to read the signals of my body were great. And I said to myself, I cannot remain in that squeezed, narrow place. I have to have widening. And I think there is that, you know, with people that are right now going through a stuckness issues, it is how much resilient do they want to become, and what do they see in the horizon for them? If a person doesn't see in the horizon anything worth living for, they will continue in this stuckness because they will feel that they have zero control over their own destination. I love the idea of living in crescendo. I'm speaking about it as part of my resilience piece. And if for those who don't know what a crescendo is, it's a musical note that is like this, so now I'm just going to do it like this because it's easier for the video. But this is crescendo. So think of yourself as right here in the wrist, right? You're right here, living in crescendo, living in open opportunity that you don't know. It becomes wider and wider and you don't know where you're going. Living in the opposite of crescendo is called the meander, and it's where your fingertips touch each other. So when you live in that kind of a place, what you're thinking is that the best thing was behind you, right? The things right here is where you have come, and now it's narrowing your opportunities, right? And then the mindset, the thoughts that go into your mind is like, I'll never be as successful, I'll never be happy, I'll never accomplish this and that because I'm just going down. A lot of the time it happens when we get older. We think like, you know what, I've done all these accomplishments in the past. And I'm glad that you mentioned our ages. And yes, you were right. I was in my 50s when I left my education career. But the mindset is I'm living in crescendo. I'm choosing to live in crescendo because the opportunities ahead, even though I may not know what they are, my eyes are into what I call the chamber of tomorrow. My eyes is on the horizon because from there, I could see that I don't know what will be, but I can start walking toward it. So every person has a choice. You choose life or you don't. And in Judaism, when you choose life, you choose good. So you have to decide what's good for you. What's good for you? And then you go with that. In the moments of the heart, there's a lot of knowledge about Jewish quotes and wisdom that I think it's ageless and religiousless. I know it because I'm Jewish, but it applies to every single person walking in this earth. Okay? How do you make your life better? And it boils down to choosing. And that's why I don't think you don't know it, Joseph, but I am in the last stages of working on my second book, which is called Choosing. And it's the guide to purposeful decision making. And that will come out at the end of 2024. And the reason I did that is because of questions like you, like how do people choose? And there is in the book, there's all sorts of choosing choices. And how do you make those choices? It's always come back to self-awareness, and it always comes back to relationships.
Well, first of all, let me just say, l'chaim to life.
I'm going to bring out my dog lover coffee mug.
So when you need to make l'chaim, you take out your dog lover coffee cup. Well, listen, if the book is not called Choosing, then it may be called Stuckness, or it may be called Living in Crescendo. I love that idea. And Dorice, what it really says
Hold on. I want to stop you for a second because there is Live Life in Crescendo is a book by Stephen Covey and Cynthia's daughter, Cynthia.
Yeah, I've never heard of him. Who is he?
I actually heard about this book.
Is he an up and coming author? Do you think he's going to make it?
Stephen Covey has passed away.
Oh, I didn't realize, but I was only joking because
Stephen Covey is like a leadership expert.
No, I know. I was joking about that, but also I've been trying to get him to come on the show. Now I know why he hasn't been responding. So
you can invite Cynthia.
Okay.
Cynthia.
Deal.
I hope that I did not misspoke.
No, but listen, Dorice, here's the point that I wanted to make, which is it comes down the idea of living in crescendo versus meander. I love this new thought. I know a bit about music because I am a cantor, but I will tell you that the choice, the fork in the road is a conscious choice where you get to decide my best days are ahead of me or my best days are behind me. To me, that's how I interpret crescendo and meander. You decide if your best days are ahead of you. I feel my best days are ahead of me. 1,000,000,000%. How about you?
I am so with you, Joseph. It's not even funny. You know, if you ask me in 2018 or 2019 or 2020, if I will be invited to speak on an HR cruise for national HR cruise, I would say you must be kidding me. Like, who would want me? What do I have to offer? And then it's happening. In a week and a half, I'm boarding a ship to Jamaica and Haiti, and I'm their keynote speaker, and I'm their positive intelligence expert who is going to do a big workshop. If you asked me back then, oh, Dorice, would the $1 million roundtable would want to fly you to Dubai to speak there? I would say you're out of your mind. And then I'm doing it this August. They are flying me to Dubai. Who gets to do that? Me, you know.
Well, listen, next year, if they're looking for a speaker, this guy, Dorice, I always find a quote for my guests. And this one I feel is just like it's the right time to introduce the quote. It's a very simple quote, but I think it really just echoes the thoughts of what we're talking about. Misery might love company, but so does joy. And joy throws much better parties. This is Billy Ivy. I just thought, again, it's this idea of make the choice, and ultimately a happier, more joyous life is going to be a fuller, richer, healthier life, period.
Yes. And, who wants to, first of all, excellent quote. I love that quote. And here's a question. Who wants to be in a company with a gloom and doom walking down the street? No one. No one. No one. That I think people want to have that joy. They want it because they want to drip on them. If they are in a not as great place, they want that to drip on them, because we have what we call in positive intelligence the contagion effect. And we should never underestimate the contagion effect. If we are coming with what we call the higher PQ, we have the positive intelligence quotient. We know how to bring the positivity, the joy, the empathy, the love, all these things. Two things can happen. If the other people are medium, neutral, a little bit negative, we can bring them their negativity a little down, or their positivity a little bit up. If they are very strong in their negative, in their saboteur, like if they rank 8 or 9 and they're not doing anything about it, or 10, they're not doing about it, now it's depending on me. If I'm strong in my PQ practice, then I'm not budging. If I was weak, I will go into theirs. So what your strength in your mental fitness determine how you're going to actually control the situation around you. So I use it all the time.
I think there was an example, and hopefully I don't mess this up and embarrass myself, but I think there was an example of in workplace scenarios where there are a bunch of women working together. The kind of alpha female or the dominant female what will happen is everyone in that group will end up with the same menstrual cycle, that everything will align with that person, that person's cycle will now become the dominant one, and everyone will align with it. Did I get that correct?
I heard that study. It's interesting because in the boardroom with women and stuff, I don't think that's the conversation that we always are having. Like, when did you get it? Are you there? And what about if I'm postmenopausal? I don't know. So this is not a question that we always ask, but I did hear about this study. But it just goes to show you that if we are aligning with our bodily function,
everything is contagious.
About our mental ability.
All right. So in the time we have left, I want to talk about two key elements of the book. The one is which is the bulk of it, is recognizing the 4 chambers and to identify those 4 chambers. I do want to mention, by the way, in 2021, so I had what I call my trifecta of trauma, which is COVID, decimating my business like yours as speakers. And the third was my mother passed away last year. The middle one was I had open heart surgery with complications. So I literally, my heart has been repaired. And I feel, and I physically and emotionally and mentally feel this concept. It connects with me in a very strong way. But before we get into the four chambers, you talk about a Lev moment. And of course, for those people that don't know, the Hebrew word for heart is Lev. What is a Lev moment, Dorice?
So my Lev moment, the biggest one that was the impetus of this book, was when I got the phone call that my sister, who was 38 at that time, got cancer, and it was stage 3 breast cancer, and it was very quickly spreading. And
Sorry.
it was a Thursday night. I remember. So the Lev moment is something that you remember that made such an impact on you and shift your entire universe. And so here it is. I'm sitting here. It's a Thursday night. I'm getting this phone call from Israel, and my sister lives in Israel. And I sit here and I think to myself, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm here. She's there. Yes, I have siblings there, but I'm here. How do I go support her? And I was working at the synagogue as an education director. And the next day was a Friday night service with a Shabbat dinner with a Sabbath meal. And I said to my husband, you take our son. At that time, we only had one child still in our house. And I said, you go with him. I need to be completely silent in the house by myself. And he left, and I sat on the sofa. And I honestly, I did not turn the TV on. I did not turn music on. I don't think I even ate. I just sat on the sofa and looked at my walls. And in that Lev moment, something from an oi, something came out. When my husband came home that night, a couple hours later, he saw a new look in my face. And he said to me, what's going on? And I said, I am deciding that I'm going to, every Saturday night after the Sabbath is done, I'm going to put a positive video to the world. I'm going to put it on Facebook, and I'm going to have everybody listen, and hopefully my sister would listen, and that will be how I connect with her. And so that Lev moment was something that made a change in me. And I did not know it at the time that was the impetus of this book. I did not know that. I did it for a whole year. If you go way back to my Facebook, you'll see that. That's what I'm talking about when I say Lev moment, is to sit there to contemplate a question that I have in the book. After every entry, there is a Lev moment, and make the change that your heart, your Lev, instructs you, moves you, right? That's what I mean when I said that Lev moment.
So, Dorice, I'm going to ask you two quick follow-up questions that jump into my mind. Number one is, do people realize and recognize when they're having or when they've had a Lev moment? Is it easy or obvious? Should they be more attentive? Because often we miss the signs. And the second is which to me seems obvious, is when you recognize, internalize, are self-aware of that Lev moment should result in action, in some kind of a step or some kind of movement to be able to not so much capitalize on it, but not waste it, use it to fuel growth.
Okay, well, what a great question. Joseph, we can talk for another 2 hours, but here's what a quick answer.
I'm going to say, I think this is, as they call Bashert. I mean, it's wait, because by the way, you talk about and I'll let you finish this, the four chambers, right? The relationship to self, the relationship to others, right? The relationship to God. And for you, the connection to your Jewish faith and to Israel. And, even at the end of my book, I say, as I lay me down to sleep, ask yourself, did I show up for myself today? Did I show up for others today? If today was the last day of my life, would it have been worthwhile? If today was the best day of my life, would it have been worthwhile? If today was the only day of my life, would it have been worthwhile? So the alignment of the two of us is super, super strong. So back to Lev.
It's special. Well, you remind me of two things that I want to say, when we have only a couple of minutes. When you say, how do we recognize that love moment, and how do we then show up? But maybe your audience does not know. There was a 16th century Italian commentator, and his name is Maor Chaim. I have a frog in my throat, and he says, based on Abraham's story, one of the things that he said is that every person has 10 tests in their lifetime. 10 tests in their lifetime. So when you say, did it create a change in you? It's for the individuals to look back at their lives and to see, if I were thinking, I'm now in my 50s, so I could not possibly gone through all the 10 tests, because, that's your entire life. So let's say I did 7 tests or 6 tests by now. What are they? And the most important question is, how do you think I did? How do I think I did on my own tests in life? And I think part of it is the answer of what is the legacy that I am in the process of living. Not left, because my life is not over. But what is the legacy that I'm in the process of living? And then thinking about it as I move through the day, through the week, through the year, right? It's about the legacy. Sometimes people say, I want to leave a legacy of blah, 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 blah. But okay, then what do you do about it? What do you do about it? And that connects to your second question. Action must follow. In positive intelligence, we have a 5 steps, what we call the sage powers, right? 5 steps. The number 5th, the final step, is called the activate. You have to create something. You have to do something. You either have to do something with your mindset, in your body, in your whatever, in your actions, in whatever ways you use that action. And sometimes the action is just a change of thought. That is an action, okay? But can then other people see it? I'm creating right now this big slide production for the cruise, for the keynote cruise. And I talk about, what are you known for? What is the value that you have? And my last question is number 1 and 2 obvious for other people? Right? Because sometimes you can live and say, oh yeah, I live by this value. I'm known for this, but no one knows it. So is it really known? And if it's not, go back to your paper and try to figure out why. What is the missing link here?
What I really love about this question, or this insight from you, is it's the legacy that I'm in the process of living, right? It's not static. It's not binary, on, off, legacy on, legacy off. It's creating. It is the journey. That's the point you're making, right? It is the journey as opposed to the destination. And so being self-aware, loving that journey, living that journey, this is the point. This is the point. This is what happens when joy is just a natural byproduct. I got to tell you, just a little bit of fun at the end. You were thinking, I'm thinking like going back to the 10 tests. Well, if it's true that there are 10 tests and a cat has 9 lives, I guess the point is, on that 10th test, you better get it right. You better know it's the 10th test. Otherwise, they may not that I'm saying you're a cat or I'm a cat, but 10 tests, 9 lives, 1 life to live. You may as well live it with a full heart, as opposed to a heavy heart.
Well, Joseph, my gosh, we could talk forever, but you speak about life. So I have to put it out there. The word life in English, you said you have 1 life. But do you know that in Hebrew, the word life is actually plural? We say chaim tovim, life are great, life are good, right? So why is it in Hebrew, the Hebrew language, which is a very meaningful, you understand so much more about life and mindset and everything else if you actually study the Hebrew language. But I know most people don't, so that's why I come in. Why is life plural in Hebrew and singular in other languages? Let me tell you, because your life is built of all the events that happen to you, including all the tests that happen to you in your life. Your life is the tapestry of what happens to you. And part of the number 4 relationships that I talk about in the book is, how do you then manage all the events that happen, and what's your relationship to those events that happen? if you're looking at them, even you know, like you had the surgery, your heart surgery, what is your learning about you because of the surgery? What did the surgery provide for you? To some people, it could be, it was the worst thing that happened to me, and I'm still suffering because of that. And or like my sister, she had the cancer. Some people will say it was the worst thing that ever happened. Well, my sister, and she says it, and I think I write it in the very end in the book, she survived. Thank you, Lord. She survived. And she said that the cancer was the best thing that happened to her. I actually, when I only talk about my book, I bring that video of my sister saying it in English, that this was the best thing, because if she didn't get that horrible disease, cancer, her life will not have changed in the way that it changed since then. So we can look at whatever to us in our lives as a tragedy, or we can look at whatever to us in our life as a stepping stone to what comes next. And it's not easy. I get it. It's not very easy. And look at you on my website and everything. Oh my God. Okay, I need to know how you do all these fancy things, because I don't do it.
Let me tell you, Dorice, I'm booking my ticket on the cruise so that I can listen to you deliver your Oi to Joy keynote. If you want to book Dorice, go to doricehorenstein.com. Please go out and buy Moments of the Heart, 4 relationships everyone should have to live wholeheartedly. You can subscribe to Dorice's channel on YouTube. You know, these days, it's easy. Even if you see a weird URL like that, you can just use computer vision and use your phone to capture the URL. You can connect with her on LinkedIn, where she is posting and consistently being able to keep up that momentum. And you can follow her on Instagram. I loved that final insight. Life is plural, and I feel alive because of this connection that we now have and this friendship. And you know who else is alive and kicking, thank God, and inspired by you, Dorice? It's Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
And we will be back soon. Take care, everyone. Goodbye and l'chaim.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show, and if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.